Back at it again with another casual video essay. I'm really enjoying this format. So I've been thinking a lot about the nature of my analysis and how I present it to the world. So this is very much an evolving process. So I've been thinking a lot recently about research, which has become arguably a bit of a buzzword online. Everybody is talking about research. It's the once boring activity has now developed a new cool girl persona. Substack essays and video essays galore reflect on research as a leisure activity, research as a pattern disruption, research as a cultural process. And on the other side of the coin, conspiracy theorists demand that we all do our own research while they build their webs of conspiracy further and further. Arguably, research in the digital age has taken on a new meaning. This is because we can all talk to one another, and publishing is available to all, at least in theory. The interfaces through which this new definition has taken hold, social media, newsletters, blogs, and Reddit threads, mediate how this definition is developed, and this is why research feels everywhere. So my analysis of this is specifically focused on interfaces and interaction design and how these things coalesce to create the metaphors that we use to describe the world, and how this limits our understanding of the nature of research in the digital age. In contrast to feeling everywhere, research also feels off. This is something a lot of people have noticed and came to the same platforms to critique. Yes, this is what I'm doing right now, but bear with me. The Taylor Swift Dubai Chocolate Labubu Industrial Complex is a Substack note that I reference a lot in relation to this and think about at least once a day. People opine about the performative pseudo-intellectual and all the hot men reading bell hooks to go get girls. Like I said, what I want to explore in this analysis is a little different. What we see is the expansion of the activity of research, whilst its form is narrowing. But why is this? It all has to do with the metaphors we use to misunderstand the nature of the digital interface. And as a UX designer, I find this fascinating. Knowledge influencing describes the hot new niche of those influencers who create a platform by posting educational videos, often about politics or philosophy. This is part of my own work through the Irrational Technology TikTok channel. But as I outlined in my essay, The Collapse of Online Education, Political Education is Upon Us, I have my qualms about the social impact of this kind of social media content. Social media and data capitalism more broadly benefit and operate from the replication of emotions through artificial means. What this means is that social media can draw you in by replicating the feeling of learning or the feeling of activism without actually contributing to your learning or activism in a material sense. The feeling of research and the new persona it comes with are part of this affect-oriented ecosystem. The feeling of having found out some new information for yourself is a good hook, and it's one continued by the social validation you get from presenting this information to others in a way that makes you seem cool. But this form of research, which is the dominant form that most of us engage with online, is rooted in two main motivations. Firstly, affect, how it makes us feel, and social standing, how it improves our social standing. This inherently limits the outcomes of this, and it narrows the topics and it can encourage confirmation bias. Research is expanded. Most of us are doing it. But this expansion is also the cause of the sameness we all feel, where every other take online is repetitive and shallow. This shallowness is often attributed to the algorithm, or evil tech overlords, or the manner in which social media has completely flattened expertise. The real problem, however, is a little more subtle than that. These effects are symptoms of a deeper problem to do with how we think about mediation, interfaces, ideology, and truth. The tech lords who benefit from these assumptions are merely along for the ride. They're not the creators of this reality. As far back as Aristotle, it's been common to think of mediation as a door, a threshold, or a window. This is translated into the way we think about interfaces, with the same door metaphors becoming prevalent in cultural criticism of all forms of digital interfaces. This door analogy implies that the information we see on our screens is simply a true representation of something. All the interface is doing is displaying information. But interfaces don't simply display information, they translate it. The information you see on screen has undergone a regime of translation from electronic signals to code to the designed interface. What we see is true in the interface is manufactured coherence from messy plurality to a single stabilized form. The interface, like any form of mediation, acts more as layers of translation than a mere threshold. These layers of translation mean that the information put in through interfaces can't end up producing a similar quality. Unique inquiries, thoughts, and knowledge become narrower and narrower as they pass through these translations, on top of which are algorithms, social media formats, and social biases. Research converges into a small set of interface-compatible actions. The metaphors we use to understand the world around us are important. They form our very sense of self. This is why we have to understand that the interface is not a neutral mediation tool. This may seem common sense, but the prevalence of this door metaphor in the upper echelons of cultural criticism and technology creation mean that this view of technological neutrality has trickled into many aspects of our lives, including the nature of online research. Through this regime of translation, interfaces as they exist today force coherence. This means a particular set of ideas about language, format, and structure become the norm, creating narrowing and meaning we might miss out key information in context that might allow us to understand our world better. This can seem a bit slippery to grasp as a concept. So an example that might help you visualize all of this and how the process works is the work of archivists digitizing pre-digital archives. Many pre-digital archives contain a number of things that are not effectively translated to the digital sphere. For example, notes in the margins that might explain a certain entry in the archive. There might be key additional information about a family written in the margins of the record of a marriage. The physical state of the archive and its container, as well as partial archives, can indicate a lot of things, including an attempt at erasing history. And there can also be references to other archives that weren't previously known of. Translating a paper archive to a digital one naturally presents a problem of creating interface-compatible coherence from a form that allows for more ambiguity. The resolution of this problem is known as archival disambiguity. The resolution of this problem is known as archival disambiguity. Don't know if I'm saying that right. This describes the process of making legible and machine readable what was previously ambiguous, contextual, or reliant on physical form. When archivists digitize records, they must decide how or whether to capture margin notes, physical damage, spatial relationships between documents, or the absence of expected materials. The archivist becomes a translator who must choose what aspects of the original archive's meaning-making system can survive the transfer into digital formats, and what must be discarded because the interface can't accommodate it. Search bars, for instance, can't hold the messiness of what you're actually looking for. When you type family separation, are you researching immigration policy, divorce law, pandemic isolation, or child removal? The search bar demands that you've already done the disambiguation work before you even start researching. It assumes you know what you're looking for, when often the point of research is that you don't know yet. Comment sections and replies collapse context differently. A nuanced 2,000-word post gets flattened into a thread of hot takes, each reply stripping more context until someone 5 comments down is arguing about something that wasn't even in the original piece. The interface treats all of these as equivalent engagement. Your carefully researched essay and lol what carry the same structural weight. But convergence isn't inevitable. Like many things, the internet contains contradictions. There's always pockets of the internet that show a different kind of interface is possible, a different way of learning. The expansion of research is not something we should abandon in the pursuit of multiplicity. The solution to this is not to go back to the days where you could only publish what you wanted to say if you had a certain amount of institutional recognition, because that's challenging to acquire if you're a minoritized person. And when people have the options and understanding to create more meaningful research, they will do so. There are plenty of examples of this across the internet, and 2 of my favourites I'd like to highlight is, first of all, Sublime, which is where I collect most of my ideas, and it's the only reason that any of the nonsense makes it out of my head and onto the internet. And this is the Centre for AI Alignment, which is possibly the best satire I've ever laid my eyes upon, and it really sort of captures a lot of the silliness about how this kind of echo chamber sameness of research can converge into things that are genuinely just absolutely ridiculous.